There is a room on a nuclear aircraft carrier that reaches 120 degrees. No windows, no breeze, just heat rising off industrial ovens stacked 3 high. Most sailors walk past it every day and never think twice. Inside, a person stands over a kettle holding 80 gallons of boiling stew, bracing against the roll of the ship so it does not spill across the deck. This is not damage control. This is not the reactor room. This is breakfast. Somewhere in the Pacific right now, over 100 people are moving through spaces barely wide enough to turn around in, preparing enough food to feed a small city, 3 times a day, every day, for months without a single day off. They will not fire a weapon today. They will not fly a jet. But if they fail, the most powerful warship on Earth stops working. The question this video answers is simple. What does it actually take to feed 5,500 people in the middle of the ocean, under combat conditions without ever missing a meal? If by the end of this video you never look at a carrier the same way again, type proud in the comments. The enemy here is not hunger, it is not the ocean, and it is not even the sheer scale of the numbers. The real enemy is time, and the complete absence of margin for error. Every meal has a deadline that cannot move. Flight operations do not pause because the galley is behind schedule. A carrier's entire rhythm, launches, recoveries, shift changes, watch rotations, depends on food arriving exactly when it is supposed to, prepared to a standard that keeps 5,500 people healthy enough to do dangerous jobs with zero tolerance for mistakes. Most people look at a Navy cook and see someone flipping eggs. What they miss is that a single case of food poisoning on a carrier does not mean a sick day. It means a combat readiness failure, because sailors who cannot report to their stations cannot fly, cannot fuel, cannot maintain weapon systems, cannot stand watch, as one senior culinary specialist aboard the USS Harry S. Truman described it. On this ship, a bad batch of chicken is not an inconvenience. It is a threat to the mission itself. So how do these men and women carry that weight every single day without ever being seen? That is what happens deep inside the busiest kitchens in the United States military. Consider something almost everyone already understands. The busiest McDonald's locations in America serve roughly 4,000 customers a day, and that is considered a high-volume operation. The Truman's galleys produce over 17,000 meals daily. That is more than 4 McDonald's worth of fresh-cooked food from scratch every 24 hours. The math behind that number is staggering on its own. The galley burns through 1,600 pounds of meat daily, which is nearly a full ton of beef, chicken, pork, and fish. That is the equivalent of feeding an entire small-town football team roster in protein alone every single day. Add 350 pounds of lettuce and 160 gallons of milk, and you start to see a supply chain built more like a regional distributor than a kitchen. Then add 20,000 cups of coffee brewed daily. That is enough coffee to fill a small swimming pool by the end of a single week. Every calorie is regulated. Male sailors require roughly 3,000 to 3,500 calories daily, and female sailors require around 2,100, and the Navy tracks fat, sodium, and nutrient content meal by meal. On the newest carrier in the fleet, the USS Gerald R. Ford, the daily grocery bill runs between $40,000 and $55,000. That adds up to well over $1 million a month, spent entirely on keeping one ship's crew fed and combat ready. The stakes are about to get personal because behind every one of those numbers is a person standing in heat most civilians would refuse to work in. Nimitz-class carriers operate 4 separate galleys spread across the ship. Newer Ford-class carriers consolidate down to two, one forward for flight deck crews, one aft for everyone else. Space on a carrier is treated like currency, and galleys get exactly what they need and not 1 inch more. Cooks work shoulder to shoulder around equipment built for industrial output, ovens that roast hundreds of pounds of meat at once, dough mixers that handle 50 to 60-pound batches, fryers that cook hundreds of chicken pieces simultaneously. Think of it like a commercial bakery crammed into a studio apartment. Except this bakery is also rolling through 6-foot swells while 1,000 people wait in line outside the door. The bakery itself regularly hits 110 degrees or higher, an oven baking inside an oven. Bakers work those shifts without complaint because they understand something simple. The smell of fresh cookies in the middle of the Pacific Ocean is the closest thing to home some sailors will get for 6 months. The rating who bakes those cookies at 4 a.m. does not get a medal ceremony. He gets a clean tray, a sore back, and the next batch waiting. That human cost only grows once you meet the people actually running these kitchens. Before we go further, take a second to hit that like button and subscribe. Over 98% of you watch without subscribing. It costs you nothing but makes a huge difference. Now back to the galley. Navy culinary specialists arrive from every possible background. Some trained in professional kitchens before enlisting. Others, as one senior specialist aboard the Truman recalled, had never boiled water before basic training. Training begins at Culinary Specialist A School at Fort Gregg Adams, Virginia, an intensive program covering knife skills, food safety, and critically cooking at massive scale. Cooking for 5 people is a hobby. Cooking for 5,500 is an entirely different discipline, one built on hour-by-hour prep schedules and zero tolerance for waste. The first weeks aboard an actual carrier hit hard. Equipment fails mid-shift, entire batches get thrown out and remade under pressure. There's no slow Tuesday because the ship never stops moving and neither does the mission. A typical breakfast cook starts at 03:30, that's 3:30 in the morning, preparing food while most of the ship is still asleep. Shifts run 12 to 16 hours, almost entirely on their feet. Have you ever worked a 12-hour shift on your feet in extreme heat with zero room for mistakes? Drop your answer below. Despite the grind, the menu itself reflects a level of care most people would not expect. The Navy runs a rotating menu cycle spanning 14 to 21 days, so sailors rarely eat the same meal twice in 3 weeks. Taco Tuesday is real and wildly popular. Mongolian Grill Night lets sailors customize their own stir-fry. Holidays bring full Thanksgiving turkey spreads, prime rib for special occasions, and even lobster for birthdays. Near foreign ports, regional ingredients slip into rotation: feta from Greece, fresh pasta from Italy, spices sourced near Middle Eastern waters. It is a small taste of geography sailors will never actually set foot on. The serving line itself resembles a school cafeteria stretched across a warship, snaking through narrow passageways and steep ladder wells civilians would call stairs. During peak hours, sailors wait 20 to 30 minutes just to reach a tray, a wait every single person accepts, because the alternative is worse. But here's the part nobody talks about. None of this works without a resupply system operating on a razor-thin margin, hundreds of miles from the nearest port. An aircraft carrier cannot simply restock at a grocery store. Every 7 to 10 days, a supply ship pulls alongside the carrier while both vessels move at full speed, transferring between 400,000 and 1 million pounds of food, supplies, and provisions using nothing but cables and pulleys. That is not a typo. Up to 500,000 pounds of groceries and supplies moved ship to ship every week and a half at sea. Storage decks below the flight line look like commercial warehouses, pallets stacked floor to ceiling, every item tracked by expiration date down to the day. Nothing gets wasted, because nothing extra is coming until the next resupply window. Fresh produce fades fast, even refrigerated, so the menu quietly shifts across each cycle. Early days bring crisp salads and fresh vegetables. Later days lean on canned and frozen substitutes, forcing cooks to get creative just to keep meals tasting like something worth eating. Think of it like stocking a corner store that has to survive 10 days without a single delivery truck. Except that corner store is feeding 5,500 people who are flying combat aircraft off a flight deck the length of 3 football fields. That level of planning only matters because the galley itself never actually closes. Meal service runs 22 hours a day, with only a 2-hour window for deep cleaning, and even then, the ship's store stays open for sailors who miss their window entirely. 4 separate crews rotate through, breakfast starting at 3:30, lunch prep beginning around 900, dinner starting mid-afternoon, and the midnight rations crew feeding sailors on watch through the darkest hours of the night. It is a handoff choreographed down to the minute, crew to crew, with 0 downtime built in. And here is something almost no one considers. These cooks are also sailors with battle stations. When general quarters sounds, culinary specialists drop what they are doing and report to firefighting and damage control assignments, just like everyone else aboard. When the drill ends, they walk straight back into the galley and keep serving. The mission does not pause for anything, and neither do they. That relentless pace exists for a reason that goes far beyond nutrition. Sailors aboard a carrier go weeks without seeing sunlight, working in cramped compartments, separated from family for 6 to 9 months at a stretch. In that environment, food stops being fuel and becomes something closer to medicine for morale. A hot meal after a dangerous mission. A surprise birthday cake for a sailor thousands of miles from home. The smell of fresh coffee and bacon after a brutal overnight watch. These moments matter more than most civilians would guess. Senior culinary specialists often describe handwritten thank you notes from crew members and commanding officers who credit the galley directly with holding morale together during the hardest stretches of deployment. These are not small gestures. They are proof that food is quietly load-bearing infrastructure for an entire warship's psychological endurance. None of it comes without real, constant difficulty. Industrial equipment running 20+ hours a day breaks down often, and a single failed oven can throw an entire meal service into chaos within minutes. Space stays brutally tight, forcing cooks to work in constant physical contact with each other, with 0 room to spread out during rushes. Temperatures inside these galleys regularly climb past 120 degrees, especially near the grills and bakery lines, and heat exhaustion remains a genuine medical concern the ship's doctors actively monitor. Add rough seas into the mix, and pouring 80 gallons of boiling soup becomes a balance test on a tilting floor that would shut down any restaurant on land instantly. Do you think you could work a 16-hour kitchen shift in 120-degree heat while the floor tilts beneath you? Let us know in the comments. These specialists adapt because the alternative simply does not exist as an option. A hungry carrier is a carrier that cannot fight, and that single fact drives every decision made in that kitchen. Zoom out far enough, and the picture becomes impossible to ignore. Every fighter jet that launches off that deck was flown by a pilot who ate breakfast prepared by someone standing in 120-degree heat before sunrise. Every award the ship earns for readiness carries an invisible signature from the galley that kept the crew fed through it all. What the official readiness reports do not tell you is that behind every successful deployment sits a kitchen crew that worked 16-hour shifts with no applause, no medals, and no recognition beyond a note passed quietly across a tray line. They are not measured in kill counts or flight hours. They are measured in the simple fact that nobody went hungry, nobody got sick, and nobody's performance suffered because a meal was late. These are the men and women standing over boiling kettles and industrial fryers, so the rest of the fleet can fly, fight, and come home fed and ready. If this video changed the way you see what it takes to run an aircraft carrier, subscribe now. The story of the people feeding America's warships is still being written right now, one shift at a time.
Merry Christmas! I got you.